Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll be starting here in just a few minutes. evening, everyone, and welcome to iTalks. We'd like to thank you all for coming out. We will be privileged tonight to hear from 3 excellent speakers. We would like to just recognize the Presentation Practice Center for hosting this event. And as is our tradition here at Brigham Young University, Idaho, we'll be starting with a prayer by Tori Skalik.
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this wonderful blessing that we have to come together to listen to our wonderful 3 speakers. We ask to please bless them with the Holy Spirit, that they have the ability to speak from their heart and share their message. We ask to please all be able to actively listen and pay attention. And we ask to please be with us within this next time. And we say these things in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Before we welcome our first speaker on stage, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what this event means. All semester long, students enrolled in the Professional Presentations class prepare to share their original, creative, and innovative thoughts with you tonight at this capstone event. Only the best from each class are selected to come share their ideas with you. On behalf of myself, the team, the events team, the speakers, and anyone else involved in preparing for this event, we would just like to once again welcome you to iTalks. Our first speaker will be Cole McQuivey. Cole is a fitness enthusiast. He's a soon-to-be competitive bodybuilder and is currently studying communication here at Brigham Young University, Idaho. He's passionate about the gym and all things weight-related. Please welcome Cole McQuivey to the stage.
Hope everyone's having a good night. So I want to start my speech off with a question. What is something that every person does? And I am fishing for an answer. It's not eat, it's not sleep, though we do all do those things. It's not go to the bathroom. It's age. Every single one of you is going to age. You've already aged, you've had experience in aging. Congratulations. Good job. You made it this far. But as I go through my speech, I want you to remember and recognize that we all age, that this is something that affects us all. A little bit of background about me. I, as was previously mentioned, am a soon-to-be competitive bodybuilder. August 3rd will be my first competition. I'm very excited. But before that, I've been weightlifting for over half a decade. I've been into hypertrophy training, calisthenics. What got me into weightlifting was American Ninja Warrior, if anybody knows what that is. I got really excited. I started doing pull-ups, and then I was like, wait a second, maybe I can get stronger with weights, and I did. But I never did American Ninja Warrior, unfortunately, maybe someday. And then there's my dad. He's a PA. He's a physician's assistant that specializes in wellness, hormone treatment. And what wellness is essentially taking care of yourself before you get sick. He works specifically in preventative health. He wants you to feel good so you don't get sick. So I know firsthand the importance of taking care of yourself and how important that is and how much it impacts our lives. Now I want to bring it back to the answer to our question, age. I'm sure many of you know some older people, a grandparent maybe an older uncle, an older aunt, maybe even a parent. And I'm sure some of you see them and you see that their quality of life is not where it should be, that they can't get out of bed by themselves. They need a walker, or they can't stand in the shower. They have one of those chairs. They can't do things. They have a decreased quality of life. And I don't know about you, but I've had grandparents stress to me how frustrating it is not to be able to go to the bathroom by yourself, or to need someone to hold your hand as you walk, or to be constantly watched in fear of you falling off a ladder and breaking a bone. Now, how do we improve those that we love in their lives, in their quality of life, and how to improve our quality of life? The answer is resistance training. Resistance training equals an improved quality of life. Now, I want to go over my main points for what I'm going to speak on today. So first, I'm going to be talking about what is resistance training, different types, and ways to do it. Second, I'm going to talk about what happens when we don't take care of ourselves, the effects that has on our bodies and on our minds. And third, I want to talk about how we can negate those effects and how we can improve our quality of life and prevent those issues. And I teased it a little bit. You probably already know the answer. But so what is resistance training to start off? Simply put, it's resisting. Resisting with your body. Good examples of this would be going to the gym, lifting weights, weightlifting, which I guess is going to the gym, lifting weights, weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, CrossFit, powerlifting, American Ninja Warrior training, anything that targets a muscle group and has it increase muscle size and muscular strength. Push-ups would work, body weight exercises, just anything that will increase muscle mass and help your muscles grow stronger. Now I want to talk about the effects of not taking care of ourselves and how that impacts our lives. So there is something called frailty. Frailty, I'm sure many of you have seen, as I've mentioned before. You have older family members or older people that you know that can't do things. Frailty recently was coined as a syndrome by the greater medical community as something that is an issue that can be prevented. But frailty is getting weaker. Frailty is losing muscle mass. Frailty is not being able to do 2 + 2 in your head anymore. And frailty is getting osteoporosis, losing bone strength, easily breaking limbs. In fact, frailty is such a prominent issue that, as you can see here, those with frailty quadruple their chances of getting dementia. So you think, wow, if I don't have muscle mass when I'm older, you're more likely to be getting dementia. Frailty increases the risk of cardiovascular health issues. Technical issues, 1 second. So having these issues, having less muscle mass and having low bone density strength causes you to have health or heart issues. Frailty causes a decrease in quality of life, is what I'm trying to say, as I've discussed before. Older individuals that you know don't have a very good life. And if you're thinking, okay, so what? You know, dementia, nobody in my family has dementia. I'm probably not going to get dementia. A study showed that high frailty was associated with increased dementia risk independent of genetic factors. So frailty caused dementia in those who previously, in previous generations, in their family, were not predisposed to dementia. So if you have frailty or have you issues with frailty, you are much more likely, 4 more times likely to get dementia. Now, I'd like to tell you a story about my grandfather. He has passed. My grandpa was an amazing man. I was raised very close to him, about a 30-minute drive. He was very lively. He was bubbly. I would joke with him. I'd tease him. He'd tease me back. He would go to our baseball games. He'd watch my baseball game. He'd watch my brother's baseball game. I remember him driving around playing golf with us. This is all when I was younger. And then as he got older, I saw the effects of what happens when you don't take care of yourself. My grandfather, though he may have been athletic and played baseball when he was in his 20s, the majority chunk of his life, 40, 50 years, had been spent sedentary. He would make the occasional walk around the block. But I saw what happens when you don't take care of yourself, when you let frailty destroy your life. He became a shell of who he was. I couldn't joke with him anymore. He would frequently forget names, mistake names. I got to the point where my aunt had to live in home with him and to watch him constantly, help him go to the bathroom, help him get out of bed. He had to have a catheter. It was an issue. And you might be thinking, wow, that is horrible. He must have felt really bad. And that's what I think. I think what a poor situation, what a poor quality of life that he had. But something that we forget is that we have family. That each and every one of you possibly will have children someday. And to think of your children watching you degrade and suffer and go down a path where you can't remember your own name is heartbreaking. And that's what it did to me with my grandfather. And it's something that I hope that I can really drill into your hearts, is that we have others that love us and that don't want to see us fail. Now, how can we prevent these issues? What are some preventative measures? Well, as I prefaced before, resistance train, resistance train, resistance train. A summary of 16 studies showed that resistance training lowers the risk of all-cause mortality, cardiovascular disease, total cancer, diabetes, and lung cancer by 10 to 17%. Now, that may not sound like a lot, but wouldn't you rather have those odds than 0%? Another study shows, by Frontiers of Neuroscience, that resistance training could be used in place of neurological therapy and prevent and control neurological issues. So, resistance training, taking the steps beforehand, before you have these issues with your brain, these issues with your body, could negate any need for therapy later on. And if I had to leave with one thing tonight, it's that what you do now and what you do throughout your whole life matters. Your health matters. People around you are affected by your health, not just yourself. So, make a change and pick up some weights. Thank you.
Thank you, Cole, for that amazing speech. Next up, we'll be hearing from Isaac Padilla. Isaac was born and raised in Watsonville, California. He is currently studying here at Brigham Young University, Idaho. He's studying communication with an emphasis in video production. He started studying in fall 2022, and he will graduate in spring of 2025. He enjoys hiking, reading, and playing music with his friends. Everybody give a round of applause for Isaac Padilla.
Thank you. What is it like to be isolated, dispossessed, and disempowered? Every day, marginalized groups of people experience discrimination, injustice, and disempowerment because of their race, class, and sexual identity and orientation. Yuri Kochiyama was a civil rights activist who dedicated her life to contributing to social change through her participation in social justice and human rights movements. Yuri and her family were among 120,000 Japanese Americans on the West Coast who were rounded up in anti-Japanese hysteria during World War II. Following the bombing of Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt gave the Army power to arrest all Japanese Americans, including 3/4 of them children born in the US, take their lands, homes, businesses, and transport them to camps where they would live under strict prison conditions. In her own words, Yuri Kochiyama describes the conditions of these Japanese internment camps. Quote, "Everything changed for me on the day Pearl Harbor was bombed. On that very day, December 7th, the FBI came and took my father. He had just come home from the hospital the day before. For several days, we didn't know where they had taken him. Then we found out that he was taken to the federal prison at Terminal Island. Overnight, things changed for us." Most Japanese Americans had to give up their jobs and were told they had to leave. The edict for 9066, President Roosevelt's edict for evacuation, was in February 1942. We were moved to a detention center that April. We were sent to an assembly center in Arcadia, California later that month. It was the largest assembly center in the West Coast, having nearly 20,000 people. We always called the camps relocation centers while we were there. Now, we feel it is apropos to call them concentration camps. It is not the same as the concentration camps of Europe. We feel they were death camps. Concentration camps were a concentration of people placed in an area and disempowered and disenfranchised. So it is apropos to call where I was in a concentration camp. Each of us is a child of divine heritage. The divine mission and purpose of our heavenly parents is to bring to pass immortality and eternal life. Many of us have been taught these principles over and over again throughout our lives. However, how many of us actually take time to apply these principles, especially in our treatment of others every day? I ask you all tonight, how can each of you individually stand against injustice in your community? We learn much about injustice from Yuri Kochiyama's experience in the Japanese internment camps. Fighting injustice includes protecting human rights, building solidarity, promoting equality, addressing missed opportunities for marginalized individuals, and speaking up in support of marginalized voices. As a person of color who has experienced the injustices of racial profiling, ethnic stereotyping, and microaggressions throughout my life, I have pondered ways that I can stand against injustice in my community. As I describe 3 simple yet powerful strategies that each of you can take to stand against injustice, including calling out injustice, becoming an ally, providing support, I invite you all to consider how you can each individually stand against injustice in your community through small and simple means. First and foremost, when you see discrimination or injustice, call it out for what it is. If you see racism or witness an unsafe situation, do not hesitate to intervene with caution through small and simple means. Call for help. And afterwards, check in with these individuals. Speak up in support of marginalized voices who have experienced a recent tragedy, or incident of injustice in their lives. When these moments of injustice go unnoticed, unwritten, and unreported, it will create a vicious cycle that will continue to persist in the community. So don't hesitate to document these incidents, especially if you have personally experienced them yourselves. These efforts will help you as you seek to become an ally to marginalized voices in your community. Next, you can become an ally. You can become an ally by doing the following. Pay attention. Pay attention and be aware of what you say and how you say it. Avoid stereotypes, generalizations, and assumptions about people whose perspectives are different from your own. Next, accept correction. Be open to accept correction from people. Be humble and humble yourself enough to step out of yourself and accept correction lovingly from individuals whose voices are not your own. Next, don't tolerate intolerance. It's as simple as that. Be intolerant of intolerance. Look for marginalized voices and seek them. Seek them out and seek to learn from them, especially those who feel like they cannot express themselves in their community. Next, take time, precious time every day to educate yourself and spend time with those who are voiceless and feel that they cannot express themselves. These efforts will help you as you seek to provide support to marginalized individuals in your community. Lastly, you can provide support to marginalized individuals in your community by reaching out. Seek to empathize with people who have experienced recent tragedies or incidents of discrimination or injustice in their life because of their identity. You can donate. You can donate to equitable or charitable causes, especially causes that advocate for standing against injustice. Network with others, especially people who are engaged in the same endeavors as you are. Hold each other accountable, partner with others, build networks. And as you make an effort to educate yourself, take time to educate others around you through small and simple means. Education counters ignorance and misinformation. I ask my question again. How can you stand against injustice in your community? I remind you all of your divine identity and heritage. Each of us is a child of loving heavenly parents who seek to bring to pass our immortality and eternal life. And we can apply these principles to our daily lives by making an effort every day through small and simple means to stand against injustice in our community of Rexburg. As a person of color, I seek to fight against injustice every single day. And I invite all of you to do the same. I invite you all to consider how you can call out injustice, become an ally, and become a support to marginalized voices in your community. And I promise that as you do so, you will increase in greater empathy towards others. You will also increase in emotional intelligence, and you will discover lasting joy and peace in your life. Yuri Kochiyama said it best herself, quote, "Historically, Americans have always been putting people behind walls. First, there were the American Indians who were put on reservations, Africans in slavery and their lives on plantations, Chicanos doing migratory work in the kind of camps that they lived in, and even the Chinese, where they worked on the railroad camps where they were almost isolated, dispossessed people, disempowered people. And I feel these are the things we should fight against so they won't happen again." She continues, "This whole period of what the Japanese went through is important. If we can see the connections of how often this happens in history, we can stem the tide of these things happening again by speaking out against them." Thank you.
Thank you, Isaac, for that amazing talk. We will soon be hearing from our final speaker for the night, Camille Colditz. Camille was born in Calumet, Washington. She's been studying here at Brigham Young University, Idaho for 4 semesters and will graduate in spring of 2025. She's currently studying communication with an emphasis in digital and social media. She enjoys playing the guitar, listening to music, and photography. Everybody, let's welcome Camille to the stage.
Thank you everyone for coming. So the song we just heard is called Stop It by Fisher. Now that is my hype song. Anytime I'm preparing for a first date or a job interview or giving a speech I don't want to give, I'll blast that song. I'll just bump it in my car. Now you're probably wondering, why is it my hype song? Because it's loud, it's simple, and it's upbeat. That brings me to my topic of the power of music in our everyday lives and how songs can positively and negatively affect our moods and emotions. So I've been obsessed with music for a long time. And since I was little, my mom would make me sing everywhere. I would sing in church, at Christmas pageants, talent shows, basically anywhere people would listen. And now I not only listen to music, I play it. I play the electric guitar, the acoustic, the piano, the ukulele, and the banjo for a hot sec, but I think that was just a phase. But I'm so thankful for my mom because she's grown my passion for music so much. And last year, I went to 8 concerts and 1 music festival that had over 15 bands play. And it was basically the best year of my life. So I have a little highlight of my favorite concerts. I don't know where the sound is, but that's okay.
Johnny, take it away. One more time.
Now, as you can see, 2023 was incredible. And even though there were sweaty people all around, it was packed, as you could see, and people were high. It was so worth it. And you know what they say? The money comes back, but the memories don't. And I live by that. So here's a quote I found from BBC Science Focus magazine. It says, the oldest discovered musical instruments in the world, flutes made of bones and mammoth ivory, are over 40,000 years old. The instruments and songs are maybe far older. So music is all around us. It's everywhere. It's in the car, it's in the grocery store, on the radio. You can't escape it. And StartledMusic.com says there are over 1,300 genres on Spotify alone. And music is also so deeply rooted in so many different cultures. Like in Africa, they have drumming. And they will use drums to celebrate, to tell stories, communicate, mourn others, and so much more. And along with gospel music, African Americans will use songs and choir to help uplift each other, inspire, express their faith, and gain a sense of community. So now that we kind of talked about where we hear music, let's talk about how our brains handle music. So an article I found from the Kennedy Center says that once the nerves deliver musical signals inside the skull, the brain goes to work. Performing and listening to music gives big chunks of your brain a workout. So here I have a picture of all the spots in your brain that help you to process music. So first we have rhythm. On the right side of your brain is the parabelt, And this is responsible for helping you figure out the rhythm. So when you're tapping a drum or snapping your fingers, tapping your feet, the motor cortex and the cerebellum are involved. And we also have memory. Humans are incredible at memorizing, especially songs. You can listen to a song one time and you'll basically remember it forever. And all these song lyrics and song titles are placed in the hippocampus. And then we have performance. So playing an instrument or reading music, this fires up the cerebellum once again, the motor cortex, the sensory cortex, and the visual cortex. And lastly, there's emotion. Music is so powerful that it's able to trigger actual emotion and feeling in your brains. So the areas responsible for these responses are the nucleus accumbens and the cerebellum once again. So now that we know how our brain processes music, I want to do a little experiment. So I'm going to tell a story 3 times with 3 different songs, and we're just going to see how the songs make you feel and which song you think works best. Okay. Song number 1. Emily's dog Max had gone missing. She searched the neighborhood calling his name and asking everyone if they had seen him. Hours passed with no sign of Max. Emily felt her hope fading as she wandered the streets. Just as she was about to give up, she heard a familiar bark. She turned the corner and saw Max running towards her, tail wagging furiously. Emily scooped him up with tears of relief streaming down her face. Now, think about how that song made you feel with the story. I'm going to tell it again. Emily's dog Max had gone missing. She searched the neighborhood calling his name and asking everyone if they had seen him. Hours passed with no sign of Max. Emily felt her hope fading as she wandered the streets. Just when she was about to give up, she heard a familiar bark. She turned the corner and saw Max running towards her, tail wagging furiously. Emily scooped him up with tears of relief streaming down her face. Now think about how that song made you feel. Very different, right? Now, one more time, one more song. Emily's dog Max had gone missing. She searched the neighborhood calling his name and asking everyone if they had seen him. Hours passed with no sign of Max. Emily felt her hope fading as she wandered the streets. Just when she was about to give up, she heard a familiar bark. She turned the corner and saw Max running towards her, tail wagging furiously. Emily scooped him up with tears of relief streaming down her face. Now, each of those songs had such a different emotion, a different feeling, just a different vibe. So who thinks that the first song, Sparks by Coldplay, fit the story the best? Raise your hand. Okay, now who thinks that the suspenseful song fit the best? Now, who thinks that Happy fit the story the best? Okay, so there's no right answer, but my favorite was Happy because I like that it makes the story not seem as intense or as scary. It's very lighthearted. So that brings me to the positive effects that music has on us. So the positive effects are mood elevation, stress reduction, emotional expression, anxiety relief, concentration and productivity, improved sleep, motivation, and social connection. So there's so many positive effects on music can have on us physically and mentally. It can release dopamine, it can lower heart rate and blood pressure, create a stimulating work environment, even for like school or doing your homework. It can promote relaxation. It can be motivating, just like my hype song. And that brings me to my next slide, which is the negative effects that music has on us. So the negative effects are sadness or loneliness, increased aggression, anxiety and stress, depression, desensitization, limited concentration, negative behaviors, emotional exhaustion, and negative influence on sleep. So there are so many negatives along with the positives. So we need to be careful what we're listening to. Listening to songs with fast rhythms can increase aggression and anger. And this makes me think of a time with my sister. She is an absolute speed demon, and she loves rap. She'll be blasting Kendrick Lamar and like Kanye West all the time. And every time we're in the car, we'll be on the freeway, she'll be blaring Kendrick Lamar, and she'll be gripping the steering wheel, and she'll be going way over the speed limit. She'll be going like 90 into 70. And just because she's so tense with this music, that kind of making her a little aggressive and intense. So we gotta be careful. No, sorry to out my sister, hopefully she's not watching. But listening to songs that are negative, have negative lyrics, can also promote alcohol and drug abuse. It can be overstimulating for your brain, especially if you're about to go to sleep. Listening to loud, intense songs is not going to be helpful. So I found an article by Hank Smith, and the article is called 10 Things That Extremely Happy People Do. And the 6th thing that he lists was the power of music. The power of music compares to the stress-reducing effects that massage therapy has. Happy people know that the music they choose affects their mood, so they will choose uplifting and positive music to power up their day. So we need to be smart about the music that we're listening to. We can't be listening to negative songs all the time. And yeah, rap is fun here and there, but maybe not all the time. We need to choose songs that uplift us and inspire us and make us want to be better. So I ask you to go through your playlist and go through your songs. See, are these songs making me a better person? Are they making me more angry, depressed? So let's fill our playlists with songs that lift us up and make us our best selves. Thank you.
Thank you. That was all three of our speakers for tonight. Thank you, Camille, for coming up in the final position. That sounds really bad, but they were all fantastic. We'd actually like to invite all our speakers to come back on stage for one final round of applause. Come on. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. We would like to just apologize and thank you for your patience with the lighting. There's always some sort of technical difficulty. So we do have refreshments that are being brought to the back. Feel free to mingle and talk to the speakers while you wait for those. And once again, we just would like to thank the Presentation Practice Center and the events team for hosting this event. Thank you.